So one of my absolute favorite things about having this channel is that I get contacted by independent filmmakers who are like, hey, I made this film. I would like you to check it out. Here it is. And I get to talk to the directors, the creators themselves in a private setting, and they're sharing their film with me. And to add to that, in even better cases than that, they are previous fans of the channel. And I was contacted by the director of this film, which is called Happy Birthday Maja. And this is from the writer, director, and the main star, Primush But, who is a Slovenian filmmaker. And he is saying that this is the first found footage horror film in Slovenia, and that you could probably count on one hand, missing a finger, how many horror films Slovenia has put out, in their entirety as a country. So here we go, a first for a country. That's always cool to see. And him and I have been chatting back and forth quite a bit, and he's a very cool person. But as you guys know, that will not hold me back from saying whatever it is I feel about the film. So let's talk about this movie. So he actually got this into the Grossman Film Festival out in Slovenia. So that actually had me going, okay, like if he got into a film festival, that at least gives it some credibility. Because, guys, I get sent all sorts of shit that I don't talk about, that I don't watch, or I start watching it and I'm like, oh boy, oh boy. I was telling him that I got sent one that was so bad that I genuinely felt embarrassed and couldn't even write the guy back, and felt pretty bad about it. But guys, it was something else. This wasn't the case here. This was good. I liked this. It is about a guy who hires a videographer to follow him around as he collects pieces of presents for his girlfriend's birthday. And the videographer follows him as he talks to these random people out in the world, and things can get a little tense in their escapades looking for these pieces to her present. So I think the initial setup reminded me a decent amount of the movie Creep. I don't know how it couldn't for any found footage fans. That concept of like some random guy hiring a videographer to follow him around for money, and that's very Creep. It also reminded me a bit of a movie, another found footage film called To Jennifer, which actually has sequels, but I have no interest in seeing them because I hated the first one. Supposedly there's like 2 more of those things. Maybe they're better than the first, but God, I hated the first one. But it did remind me of that, just in how it was done, because in that there's guys being followed with a camera, and he's talking about his girlfriend throughout and trying to get to her eventually. And that's kind of how this felt. This felt like a countdown to once we get to her party. The movie's only like an hour long, right? So with a lot of indie found footage, they never overstay their welcome. I think that Primush, he does a good job of acting in this. Sometimes when the director takes on too much responsibility, especially when it's his first time out, that can hurt the overall final product. But I don't think that's the case here. I do think he's a pretty natural actor, at least for this, which I'm assuming he just kind of played himself, which is harder than most people think it is. So there's a couple things with the movie that I think held it back from being better than it was. And and I already talked to him about this, so this isn't going to be anything new to him. I wrote him right after I watched the movie, and I was like, all right, you want my thoughts? And he was like, sure, hit me with them. And he was very open to the criticism, and hopefully constructive criticism for his next picture. So the film felt a little scattershot to me. Like it lacked a bit of focus, which could lend itself to the authenticity that these found footage films strive for, right? That in reality, watching someone's home movies would not be all that interesting, right? Like things wouldn't be structured in the way of really tight narrative filmmaking, right? Like that's not how home videos would work and operate. I'm not gonna sit here and say this feels like a home video, right? Because those are just straight up boring. That's not the case here. But it does feel kind of like random interactions, and sometimes you're wondering where they're going, and sometimes they can not really go much of anywhere. And there's a predictability to the movie for sure. I think anybody who's a seasoned movie watcher and found footage movie watcher in particular will be able to guess some stuff. But that being said, I still liked the performances from most people. There was one in particular that felt a little too much for me. But the first person that they interact with, a person that they're buying like a cell phone from, I thought he was quite good and kind of just like an uncomfortable person and character. And I was like, okay, this guy definitely feels like a genuine question mark that makes you feel a little uneasy. And I think he did a pretty good job. And then there's another one who's like a Jehovah's Witness, and I was kind of a little bit back and forth on him, but ultimately I decided that people like that are insane, and I think he follows suit. So good on him too. It's always, it's cool to watch movies like this where people are working with nothing. They are first-time filmmakers who, I don't know if Primush went to any kind of film school or if he's just a DIY. I always want to say DIY for some reason. DIY filmmaker who's just kind of cobbling together something purely out of passion, out of and the fact that we now have access to so much high-quality gear for seemingly, pennies on the dollar from what it once was. Shit. But I dig that, and I think that if you're a fan of watching these types of lower budgeted, independent, talky type of found footage films, then I think this could be something that you like. There was a movie last year, kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Takes place at a winery. It's just two guys, and the main guy comes to his like vineyard, and I'm totally blanking on the title right now. It came out last year. We reviewed it here, and it just it has that vibe, right? It's like an hour long. It's just one guy mostly talking to the camera and the guy that's behind the camera, and them interacting with people, and not a ton is going on, and it's really just you're either vibing with the personalities or you're not. And I liked it. I never felt bored or anything, so I think you did a good job there. There's enough variety. I think that's probably why this ended up working, is because the characters that we spend time with in this, instead of it just being him talking to the camera, that makes it harder to keep things interesting. It can be done. Creep is a great example. Mark Duplass's character in that, he's been able to not only do the first movie, the second movie, but a TV show which has a second season coming out, I think next month. So you can do it, it's just harder. And with this, you do get that variety. You do get a multitude of different characters that they're interacting with, and it changes things up, and it starts to make you wonder, like, okay, where is this heading? What is the threat of this movie? Which one of these guys is going to be the villain, or what predicament are they going to find themselves in? Where are we going to go? So there is a big question mark that lingers over the film. That being said, I think seasoned veterans for the genre are probably going to figure things out pretty quickly, but I don't think that should be a stain on the film. So that's that. I liked it. I didn't love it for sure. I think that we talked about it privately, as I said, and I told him ways that I think that things could have probably worked better, and I think he can learn from this, and I think he can have an even more successful second film, and I look forward to seeing what he comes up with next. So good on him for making the first film in his area that is a found footage horror film. That's pretty badass. Definitely an inspiration. I always say this and then I never end up doing anything. So how inspiring? Clearly not that much. But it is. It's just I'm fucking lazy or something. I don't know. I'm not a lazy person, but I can be somehow. I'm just afraid, I think is what it is. I'm a big pussy. I can't seem to. Now, I've critiqued over 4,000 films at this point. Here, I'm going to try to pretend like I know what the hell I'm talking about. Everyone's going to be like, I thought you knew what you were doing. I thought you knew horror movies. Why did you make something so shitty? How dare you? You never get to have a fucking say in against movies ever again for this piece of shit you made, right? Like, that just lingers over my head at this point. But, anyway. Happy birthday, Maja. Thank you, Primus, for sending this over to me. Thank you for the good conversations that we've had. And keep plugging away. So, cheers all the way out here in the States, out to Slovenia, and to anyone watching. And check out his film. I will put in the descriptions below once this movie gets a release date. It currently doesn't. But I'm going to try to get him in contact with someone like Found TV, because I think this would perfectly suit their app and probably would work really well on there. And there you go. So let me know if you watch it whenever it releases, and I'll see you in the comments. Adios.